Most of the time in business, we aren't looking for that one gigantic diamond that we get to cash in. We're looking for continuous, ongoing results.
Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, a Ben Kinney training production, where we discuss the concepts of health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. My name is Chad Himes, and I am joined by my friend Bob Stewart. Bob, what's our word for the day?
Chad, today's word is uncomfortable.
Okay, I'm going to make everybody uncomfortable waiting to hear you talk a little more about that as I set up today's conversation. We are continuing in our emotional intelligence series. We are on part 4, getting into the third element, because we had that overview at the beginning, yet we are on the third element, which is motivation. And Bob, you've told us to get ready to get uncomfortable. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So this isn't the first time I think that we've heard Ben talk about the idea that in order for growth comes from being uncomfortable. But I think, like most of us, we literally get up every day with the aim of like comfort, right? Like most people aren't comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So everything we do, we position our whole lives for comfort, but what you realize, and Ben does a really good job of kind of making you realize this, is that's not where motivation comes from. It's not where growth comes from. It really comes from being uncomfortable. So focus on that. Think about, where do you have too much comfort in your life, and where would maybe getting a little bit more uncomfortable help you?
All right. Well, we're going to jump into this now. We hope you get a little uncomfortable then, is what you're telling us, Bob.
That's right.
And enjoy that uncomfortable conversation we're about to have. All right, Ben, we're back on our emotional intelligence conversation. Now, we've talked about self-awareness in detail. We've talked about self-regulation in detail. We're on to the third part of emotional intelligence, which is?
Motivation.
Okay, motivation. So give us that definition again that we talked about in the brief overview so we can dive a little bit deeper into this conversation.
An emotionally intelligent leader understands motivation, which is relishing achievement for its own sake. Let's dive a little bit more into what we mean. If we wanted to be emotionally intelligent in the area of motivation, we are willing to defer immediate results for long-term successes. These types of people are highly productive, love a challenge, and are effective in the vast majority of tasks that they take on. They tend to work because what else would they do? This is what they do. They show up every single day with a driver other than something as simple as money.
You've had a successful career in a bunch of different arenas and have often kind of been number one or gotten to that place or how many more things could this guy sell, or how many more dollars does he need to make? So you've achieved very highly. How, even despite that, do you continue to stay motivated? Like, you don't need another dollar. You don't need another win, right? Like, you're relishing achievement for its own sake, but where does that come from?
Yeah, I get energy, Bob, from a challenge. I actually would rather retire than continue on in mundane things that are easy for me. So what I do is I continue to add more challenges and more opportunities to our world, because I'm driven by this idea that in order for us to have growth, stress has to be there. And I don't mean stress in a bad way. Stress is actually the catalyst for growth. I mean, how do I challenge myself? I remember one person did a drawing on a board once, and they said, on the left-hand side here, these people are average. And the word that I'd use around somebody that was average is comfortable. And on the far right-hand side over here, these people are above average. Now, what do you think they spend their time being?
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. And when I saw that first drawing, I looked back and I said, so the secret to success is going to be determined by what potential of my time am I willing to spend being uncomfortable. And for me, a challenge is uncomfortable.
That's interesting. So, once you start to feel comfortable, you're not setting up that proper level of motivation for yourself.
I'm not going to live up to my potential when I'm not challenged. I'm going to mail it in, right? You see people mail it in when they get into relationships, right? They stop taking care of their health. They stop showing up the same way. They stop buying flowers, or like they start mailing in. They get comfortable. Like, we don't want to live in our personal lives or our business lives or financial lives in a comfortable situation. Comfortable to me is average. I want to have an above average life. Because of that, I'm going to go out there and relish achievement for its own sake, not for a dollar, not for a prize, not for a trophy, right? You won't ever see me in an award ceremony. I don't show up to those. I have no interest in them, right? I am very much interested in climbing the mountain.
You want to win. You just don't want to show up for the award. You want to have that challenge of being number one, yet you don't need the recognition that comes from the award. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not signing up for anything to be number two, but I don't even care if the number two person knows that I'm number one. I want my organization to know that we are being the best that we could be, but I don't need anybody else to know it.
Now, this isn't limited to just your businesses. I mean, Ben, one of your favorite hobbies is, and I don't mean cheeseburgers,
being in the outdoors, hiking, that kind of stuff.
being in the outdoors and hiking. And you don't just go on a hike that's, that simple trail that anybody here outside your office could go on. You go away and you go for a hike. You go on a hike that takes you out somewhere for days, gets you lost in the woods. You don't look at it as just, I'm going simple. You're taking your emotional intelligence and your leadership everywhere through your motivation. It's not showing up in only your work world.
In this journey, I used to think about getting to a specific peak of a mountain. That would be getting to be number one, or making $1 million, or saving that, or getting to net worth, or building something. And what I realized when I did that, Bob, I would work for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years on something, and I get to the top of it, and I think to the top of that mountain, I accomplished that thing, and I think that my life would be different. I was waiting for this gigantic shower of joy to happen, and happiness and relief, and just, everything was perfect, right? It never happened. I'd have 3 to 5 minutes of celebration, and then all of a sudden I'd look around and there'd be that bigger mountain. And as I grew in business, I realized there was always a bigger mountain. I couldn't make my life about the bigger mountain, Chad. I had to make my life not about the destination, but about enjoying the journey. I think motivation says we need to enjoy the journey. It can't be about any one specific trophy, prize, number of dollars, number of properties owned, or something silly like that. You have to find joy in the journey. That's what this says, is we'll defer immediate results for long-term success. Challenges. To be effective, to be the best at what we do. A highly emotionally intelligent individual is waking up and saying, I know there's more mountains to climb. Let's go, and we're going to have a good time doing it.
How do you balance the idea that like in most of our business, like, you need results, right? And sometimes you make decisions based on like needing that result. How do you position your decisions around long-term success versus immediate results?
I'd ask you, when we think about results, do we need results once? In business, like, it's not like we're making a golden album or making a movie that's going to be number one and then we're done. And most of the time in business, we don't make that. We aren't looking for that one gigantic diamond that we get to cash in, right? It's not the lottery. We're not looking for a result. We're looking for continuous, ongoing results. At some point, you will make enough money. You will say, I'm good. There's nothing else I need to buy. The question that I'd challenge you with, are you creating a world so big that all your people wake up and they could be living the same life that you are? I heard Bill Gates talk about the definition of a platform. And he said, you know that you've created a real platform when the users of your platform make more than you. That's what a platform is. So when I start thinking about what is achievement, what am I motivated by? I'm motivated by you guys and you gals having the same life that I've been able to create. And most likely a much better one, a much happier one, a much more fulfilling one. That is what gets me up on my worst day.
So Ben, one of the things you said in this definition is deferring immediate results. In today's day and age, people want instant gratification.
Yep.
Amazon delivers quickly, microwaving food, whatever it might be. We want results to happen right away, on demand, Netflix and television, for example. Yet in the definition you gave us for emotional intelligence, you have motivation, part of it being willing to defer immediate results for long-term success. How do you do that? Because we all want long-term success. Yet most of us are out there looking for immediate results because we just want the endorphin hit that comes from it.
Chad, it reminds me of a quote I heard, and I'll try to recite it here. People who are living far below their means enjoy a freedom that people busy upgrading their lifestyle just can't fathom. What that says to me, based on your question, am I willing to go without something today, have delayed gratification in exchange for a really awesome future? Are you willing to invest some proceeds from your business into the business and give up the new house or the new boat or the fancy vacation so that it can be something much bigger later? Are you willing to go without the new house today so that you can save and have a better retirement? And a lot of times people aren't willing to do that. They can't give up immediate gratification, right? Even at the sacrifice of their long-term retirement or potential or business, they can't do that, right? When you think about motivation and you can get committed to deferring immediate gratification so that in the future you could have really long-term sustainable success, the potential of your life and your business, your retirement, your wealth will be unlocked.
What's the system, like in your world then, what's the system or the model for that? Like if I'm somebody that goes, I know by default, I kind of like my results now. What are some things I can do to, like, it's one thing to just say, I know if I just didn't have that result now and I just waited for it later, it'd be bigger later, right? And just try to convince myself it'll be bigger later. But like, what do you actually do to get out of that habit of being somebody that's interested in immediate results or gets more pleasure out of those?
It requires you to have clarity on your goals and the vision for your life, your family, your financials, and your company. You have to understand, what is it that we're giving up, right? What is it that I'm so bought into and so excited about that I'd be willing to put some of these things on the side? A really good example would be a small business owner. Let's make up a number. They've been able to make $100,000 in net income from their business. Congratulations, they're awesome. And they're thinking about, gosh, for the first time in my career, I've hit a level where now I can start buying that car that I've always wanted, or buying that house, or get that boat, or get whatever those things might be. However, they look up and they say, but in order for the business to grow, I really need to hire an assistant, or I need to hire a manager, or I need to hire another salesperson. In order to do that, in the short term, Bob, they're going to have to give up $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of their profit in order to get that person in place that's going to take their business to a brand new level. Now, are they willing to do that, right? Are they motivated enough to get rid of that short-term security or that short-term profit in order to build a business worth owning and a life worth living?
If it's a boat that's your thing, like a friend's boat is the best kind of boat to have, Ben, just so you know.
Yeah, a friend's plane, a friend's boat,
Yeah.
a friend's vacation property, a friend's ranch, right?
That's why we have Ben as our friend.
Yeah.
The ranch.
Nah, no boats, no cars, none of that. Right? I got a boring
You
life.
defer all your enjoyment. When are you going to start enjoying some of those things?
Well, there's a great question. When are you going to enjoy some of those things yourself? When have you deferred enough?
You know what I'd say, Chen, is that I'm no longer motivated by stuff. I'm motivated by experiences. Wealth and businesses should lead to our ability to have freedom. And for me, what I'm looking for is I'm looking to go out there and create memories and have experiences. So enough for me was, we'll probably talk about on another episode, taking a 57-day road trip last summer by myself across the United States. And that was where I got to say, you know what, the business is good, it's going to be okay, and I'm going to go take some time off.
Wow. Looking forward to diving into that one because I have a feeling that's going to be a very, very fun conversation. Okay, Ben, so that was number 3. We've now talked about self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation in the world of emotional intelligence. On the next episode, we're going to dive into the 4th, which is
Empathy, one of my favorites.
Oh, one of his favorites. Looking forward to hearing about that. Join us on the next episode. Okay, Bob, I'm a little uncomfortable after going through that conversation.
It's growth, Chad.
Growth is happening all the time. We listen to Ben so many times. We can hear him tell the same message at a different session, and we still always are getting something from it. So, Bob, what was your aha going through that conversation with Ben today?
So I think both of us, we look at Ben as a business mentor, right? He's somebody that has built an amazing business. He's a great leader. We get a chance to be led by him. And so we look at him in that light. But the reality is, like in this discussion, the part he brought up, because he's not married, right? But he brings up this idea that, like, you know, when you're dating, you kind of get uncomfortable. And for me, this is just like, as he's saying that, it's just ringing in my head. I'm like, yeah, I used to plan dates for my wife. I hate planning. I'm not a planner. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It puts me outside my comfort zone.
Sure.
Right. And so Ben is not ever going to be my marriage counselor. And yet inside of these discussions, I still always find something that I just go, God, like, I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to be in trouble by our audio guy, by the way, for banging on the table. I try not to do that, but sometimes I can't help myself. Dave, sorry. So I'm going to go home tonight and start getting a little bit more uncomfortable in my marriage, right? Like working out. That's another thing. So just these concepts, they go across all the lines and they're really powerful. And if you want to find motivation, get uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're right. And if we go back in time, we're around that same age, so we remember it. It was always the no pain, no gain is what they used to tell us. Well, that's getting comfortable, being uncomfortable.
That's right.
Right? It wasn't hurt yourself. It was if you're not pushing yourself, you're never going to get the growth that comes from it. And I think one of the things that I always find is as we have the conversations with Ben and we have these conversations, motivation is so hard to do for yourself. And sometimes you need to have people that are coming along with you. I can see Ben being motivated because of the opportunities he provides for the people in his world, and that's what powers him each and every day.
Have you ever heard like I don't know the last time I've heard it, but I've heard this a number of times where somebody says like, yeah, you know, riding on private jets and going on yachts gets boring after a while. And you always think like, what? No way. But the reality is like at some point, if you're not motivated by something other than like things, money, right, you're going to run out of motivation. And so I think a lot of the really high performers, they find that other thing. And for Ben, it's just been being uncomfortable allows him to continue to grow and find motivation. So
and take others with him. Don't forget to take others with you. It always does make that motivation trip a little bit easier.
This is a really good discussion. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and listen to this one a few times myself. And on our next episode, we will go deeper again on emotional intelligence, one we all probably need to focus on, which is empathy. It's going to be a great conversation that can't wait to hear what Ben has to say as we get to go deeper on this. Until then, make sure you subscribe wherever it is you get your podcast from. You can always visit winmakegivepodcast.com to be able to find the podcast. And until then, remember, do good.